relaxation. This is for Jennifer and Jacob and Julie and Christine and Michelle and Michael and Melissa. I'm going to tell you about the incredible sense of expectation we have from you and about your terrible obligation at being a church member by telling you what teenagers have done in Scripture throughout history and saying that you have to do the same thing. Now, it's not a theme that we talk about very much because whenever we see biblical movies, we like to depict our biblical heroes as old men with beards, but that wasn't the case. I think you already know that David, yes, and you'll never see old men with beards because women, so, yes. However, you already know that David was just a teenager when he went out to fight Goliath. But you also have to know that Gideon, who was one of the greatest heroes of Scripture, was just a teenager when he went out and knocked over the idol that his father had set up because his father didn't have the guts to do it. You have to know that Mary was just a teenager when she bore our Messiah, Jesus. And best of all, you're going to love this, all of Jesus' disciples were teenagers when he called them and commissioned them to do his work. And you may not believe that, but it's true. They were not old men with beards. They were likely between the ages of 15 and 18 when Jesus met them. James and John and Simon, Peter and Andrew down by the Sea of Galilee. And he called a bunch of teenagers and entrusted them to save the whole world. And we expect the same from you guys. So don't feel the pressure. It'll be easy. How do I know that? Well, this is how I know. I know from the ancient Jewish educational practices in Galilee. In Galilee, between the ages of 0 and 12, you went to school, and this was for girls and boys. Now, if you had been down in Judea, where the Orthodox serious church was, they didn't let girls go to school. That only happened up in Galilee, where Jesus was from, because the Galileans had learned from the Greeks and the Syrians that education was a right for all people. And between the ages of 0 and 12, you would learn about Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Old Testament: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. And you would learn them really thoroughly. And then when you reach the age of 12 and up to the age of 15, that's kind of like the communicants class, then you would learn the rest of Hebrew Scripture, the prophets, and then the Ketuvim, and that word was the books of the writings. That was for 3 years. But then at the age of 15, that sort of formal schooling ended, and you graduated communicants class, and you had to go out and find a rabbi who would teach you. And in Galilee and Judea, there were 2 different kinds of rabbis. The common rabbis were called Torah teachers, and they had studied all of the Bible, and they were qualified to teach everything that was in Scripture. And that was the normal process. But there was a different kind of rabbi from that. There was something called a smicha rabbi. And smicha means power, authority. They were rabbis who had the authority to not just teach what was in the Bible, but to add their own teachings and go beyond what was already written down, because they had smicha, authority from on high. Now, in all of the history around the 100 years near the life of Jesus, We only know the stories of 12 rabbis who had smicha, power, authority. And the question is this: was Jesus one of those rabbis? Because when the Pharisees heard Jesus speaking, they said, "Wait a minute, you do not have authority. You are not a smicha rabbi, but you are teaching a new teaching. You stop that." But his followers said, "You are wrong, Pharisees, because Jesus teaches as one who has smicha, authority, not like the regular teachers, the Torah teachers." And when the Pharisees heard that, they went to him and said, "Okay, if you have smicha, where did you get it from?" And Jesus answered them back with another question. And he said, "Where did John the Baptist get his authority from?" And the Pharisees, that is the Orthodox Church guys, said in their hearts, "Well, we don't even think that John the Baptist has authority." But they were afraid to say that because the people regarded John as a prophet. So they couldn't come out and say that, so they simply kept quiet. And Jesus asserted again and again